Guys, this video is going to connect ideas from Chapter 4, Chapter 5, and Chapter 6. What we want to do is tie some ideas of the equations that we learned together. So Chapter 6 is all about GDP. Chapter 5 is the business cycle model that includes ideas like real GDP. And Chapter 4 is about the circular flow model. So we're going to put some equations up on the board so we can make these connections. We know that income is consumption, savings, and taxes. So consumption, those are households' purchases of consumer goods. Saving, that's households' deferred consuming. They save in the loanable funds market, and then firms borrow that money to make investments. The government borrows it also. And taxes, that's how the government generates revenues. So we made a connection that GDP, one of the ways to look at GDP was we could say that it's households' purchases of consumer goods plus firms' purchases of capital goods and their inventories, the government's purchases of goods and services in the private sector. Now that's to provide us with public goods, but we're only counting the stuff that the government buys in the private sector, not the public goods themselves. And then we were going to do net exports. And you remember net exports is exports minus imports. That's the italicized M. So we had discussed that these are all kind of like linked up. That with net exports we're linking up this injection of exports and the leakage of imports. We're kind of linking up the injection of investment with the leakage of savings, and we're kind of linking up the injection of government purchases with the leakage of taxes. Okay, so all of that is old stuff. So what we want to do is make some connections between GDP as output and GDP or GDY as input. So here's our gross domestic product. And then what if we were going to say, well, let's link up gross domestic income. What we would do is we would say, well, who earns income in the economy? And this even goes back to the circular flow model. So we know that laborers earn wages. Wages are what firms pay to laborers for the service of their labor. We know that landlords earn rents. That's kind of like the slanty capital R. They earn rents. The only way a landlord can earn rent is if they sell the service of their building or their land to somebody to be productive. We know that capitalists earn interest as income, and in economics we use the primary letter R for interest. And we know that entrepreneurs earn profit. Now, we don't want to use a P again, so anytime you guys see this symbol, in our class it's going to mean profit, and we know that profit is what entrepreneurs earn when they sell the service of their insight and their mind and their intuition. So here we have gross domestic income. These are all the income earners in our economy. Here we have gross domestic product. These are all the purchasers in our economy. This goes back to an idea of general equilibrium. When domestic income and domestic output equal each other, the economy is at a general equilibrium. So if we calculate GDP and GDY and they're the same values, the economy is at a general equilibrium. These equations tie in ideas from Chapter 4, Chapter 5, and Chapter 6. So when you guys are doing your reading, I want you to think about these equations and how they go together. Thanks for viewing.